On a wet Memorial Day weekend in March 2004, 7-year-old Emily Higgs ran outside to retrieve her beloved pink bicycle. But what she found in the basket turned a bright day into a nightmare. A Ziploc bag on the handlebars. Inside was a crudely scrawled note. "Hi, honey. I've been following you. I'm the one who kidnapped, raped, and murdered April Tinsley. You're my next victim. If you don't call the police or I don't see this in the paper tomorrow, I'm going to blow up your house and kill everyone but you. You're mine." Also in the bag was a used condom. Emily froze, clutching the plastic bag as she ran toward her mother, Crystal Higgs, who immediately checked the contents. The handwriting was messy, full of spelling errors, and seemed childish. To Crystal, it seemed like a cruel prank, perhaps played by one of her teenage son's mischievous friends. But when she mentioned the name April Tinsley to a longtime resident, they blanched. Back to April 1, 1988, Fort Wayne, Indiana, was preparing for the Easter holiday. 8-year-old April Tinsley, a cheerful, energetic first grader, had left her home at 1:30 p.m. to play with her friend Nicole just a few blocks away. By 4 p.m., April was supposed to be home, but she never returned. Her parents, Janet and Michael, initially thought April might be playing an April Fool's Day prank. But as dusk fell, their concern turned to horror. By 6 p.m., they called the police. Witnesses recalled seeing April walking along Hogland Avenue earlier that day. An old blue pickup truck had pulled up near her. The man behind the wheel, curly-haired, scruffy, and unremarkable, spoke to her briefly before the truck drove away. That was the last time anyone saw April alive. 3 days later, on April 4th, a jogger in the rural suburb of Spencerville stumbled upon a heartbreaking scene. Lying in a drainage ditch was the lifeless body of April Tinsley. She had been suffocated and sexually assaulted, her small body reclothed in her own clothes, although her pants were on backwards. Her missing shoe was found 1,000 feet away, hastily discarded. Detectives discovered semen in her underwear, a potential breakthrough, but in 1988, DNA profiling was still in its infancy. Still, they preserved the evidence meticulously, believing that it would one day lead to her killer. But despite interviewing hundreds of suspects, including local sex offenders, the trail ran cold. In 1990, the silence was broken. A teenager discovered a message scrawled on the old door of a warehouse along Schwartz Street. "I killed April Tinsley. I killed again. Ha ha." The words were faint at first, but grew bolder as the author returned to retrace their steps, brazenly blacking out the letters with crayons and markers. Over the mocking laughter, they wrote, "Have you found the other shoe?" This detail, the missing shoe, had never been made public. The killer was toying with the police and the community. The message sent shockwaves through Fort Wayne. The killer was still there, lurking and planning another attack. Back in 2004, Emily Higgs's horrific discovery echoed the taunts from years before. Police immediately linked the crude handwriting and threats to April's killer. But Emily wasn't the only target. 2 other girls, ages 5 and 9, found similar notes that week, each containing bizarre gifts, used condoms. DNA testing confirmed what the town feared most: the same man who killed April Tinsley was still out there. One note was particularly disturbing. Tacked to a child's bicycle, the note detailed explicit threats and included a Polaroid photo of the suspect's naked torso. The photo showed a portion of his bedsheet, a distinctive green paisley pattern. Detectives searched local hotels and department stores, hoping to find the sheets. But nothing matched. For the next 14 years, the case remained frozen, a recurring nightmare haunting Fort Wayne. In 2018, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source: genealogy, the same cutting-edge tool that had just captured the infamous Golden State Killer. Using DNA from April's case, analysts uploaded the killer's genetic profile to a public genealogy database. Within days, they had identified distant relatives. From there, they painstakingly constructed a family tree, tracing the branches until one name stood out: John D. Miller. Miller, a 59-year-old recluse, lived alone in a rundown trailer just 10 miles from where April's body was found. He had no friends, no family connections, and no significant criminal record, only a few reports of inappropriate behavior. Detectives had been tracking him for weeks. One day, Miller's trash turned up a used condom. DNA analysis confirmed what they had suspected: John Miller was the man who had evaded justice for 30 years. When detectives arrived at his trailer on July 15, 2018, Miller did not resist. "We want to talk to you about a case we're working on," they said. Miller stared at them. "Is this about April Tinsley?" The officers did not mention April by name, but Miller felt guilty. He admitted to roaming the streets of Fort Wayne in 1988, looking for a child to kidnap. When he saw April walking alone, he lured her into his car, holding a knife. "I thought about letting her go," he confessed coldly. "But I was afraid she would talk." After sexually assaulting her in his trailer, Miller strangled April to death and dumped her body in a Spencerville ditch. For years, he kept his identity a secret, reliving his crimes by leaving taunting messages and stalking new victims. Miller pleaded guilty to murder and child molestation, avoiding trial but facing 80 years in prison. For April's mother, Janet Tinsley, the relief was bittersweet. "I will never forgive him," she said. "He took everything from us." Miller's conviction brought closure to one of Indiana's longest-running cold cases, a testament to the tenacity of detectives who never gave up. April Tinsley's story, tragic as it was, reshaped the way law enforcement approaches cold cases. Her memory lives on in April's Garden, a public park dedicated to her life. As one detective put it, "Justice has no expiration date." And for the people of Fort Wayne, the monster who once haunted their streets was finally behind bars. A community forever changed. The end of the Tinsley case brought some relief, but the scars it left were deep. For decades, Fort Wayne residents lived under the specter of an unknown predator. Parents became more protective, teaching their children safety lessons far beyond what any child should ever learn. Local schools revised their policies, instituting stricter measures to ensure no child walked home alone. Community watch groups sprang up, not just in Fort Wayne but across Allen County, spurred by the haunting memory of April Tinsley's disappearance. Detectives working the case were candid about the toll. "It's something you carry with you every day," said one police officer. "Every lead that doesn't work is like April failing again. It's hard to shake that." The case also exposed the dedication required to solve cold cases. More than 700 suspects were DNA tested over the years, a monumental effort that spanned generations of investigators. Advances in technology, such as genetic genealogy, have offered hope for solving crimes that once seemed impossible, but they have also raised questions about privacy and the ethics of using public DNA databases. For Janet Tinsley, the solution offers clarity but not closure. "You think you want answers, and you really do. But when they finally happen, you realize there's nothing that can bring her back," she said in an interview after Miller's conviction. Janet finds solace in the April Garden, a quiet space that has become a community gathering place to remember her daughter. Every year on April's birthday, people leave flowers and say her name, a reminder of a life taken too soon. The garden is also a symbol of resilience. For many, it's proof that justice, though slow, can still be done. It inspired the families of other victims to continue fighting for answers, knowing that one day their cases might be solved too. April Tinsley's case set a precedent for how law enforcement should approach unsolved crimes. Genetic genealogy, once a specialized tool, has become a cornerstone of modern investigations. It has closed dozens of cases in the years since Miller's arrest, bringing hope to victims and their families. In a quiet moment of reflection, a detective summed it up: April will never be forgotten. Her case was not just about the arrest of one man, It changed the way we pursued justice for every victim waiting to have their story heard.